Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is 𝐃𝐨𝐽.
And I'm Danny.
And this is episode 110.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed the last two episodes. Were interview episodes with Athena and Katya. I hope that you enjoyed those. Let us know if you do, and let us know if there's anybody that you would like to hear us interview, because it's something that we're going to try to do more and more as long as we think it's a really good fit for us. So right now, we should be heading down to Fort Lauderdale to finally get on the vegan cruise that we've been talking about for the last 6 months or so, which I'm super excited about.
I've been stretching more because I'll be teaching a mobility class there, getting my routine ready for that. Have not created my routine yet for the boot camp class. Are you preparing your routines yet or doing any sort of practice for them?
I don't really think they're routines. They're just classes, but I'm teaching a strength training for women class and also a posture class. I find that some of the folks on the ship are a bit older and have developed some pretty poor posture in their life. And I think that that class is a really good fit for the cruise, and everybody's just walking so much that I think that kind of stretching and strengthening posture class is really good. But my love is the strength training for women's class. So for women's strength training for women's class. Yeah, I said that right. And it's a banded class. And for a lot of these women, they've never considered strength training before. So I have this opportunity multiple times over the course of the week to talk to people and teach them about why it's so important to resistance train. And I just love that so much. But I don't really need to practice it. The class is written. But I mean, I guess every time I work out, I'm practicing it, you could say.
Yeah, most likely. I'm super curious to see what the vibe is going to be like on the ship, because we haven't set sail in, I want to say, at least 2, maybe 3 years.
It was 2020. It was literally the last thing we did before the world shut down. The world was coming to learn about COVID while we were on the ship. It was actually a little disturbing. Unnerving, yeah, while we were there. But we got home, and within the next week, everything was shut down. So yeah, it's been a while. I think it's gonna be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Shortly thereafter, we'll be back in Florida to judge the Vegan Health and Fitness Expo bodybuilding stage.
Yeah, that's I want to say it's like the 15th, April 15th or 16th.
That's the exact day, Saturday the 15th. We're also going to be speaking there, so feel free to come on out and check out our presentation and check out the bodybuilding stage. So obviously, well, not obviously, I mean, should be, but yeah, all vegan competitors.
Yeah, so it's going to be so awesome. We did that, I think, in 2019, actually, or maybe it was the very end of 2018. I can't remember. I think it might have been in December before, but it's a full vegan expo, like a Veg Fest type of an expo, with a full bodybuilding show that is all vegan competitors. It's really super fun. I didn't know how it was going to be the first time we did it. I was like, I don't know how I feel about an entire bodybuilding show made up of vegans. Like, does that make it seem like being vegan is a sort of handicap or something? But it actually turned out to be super, super fun. And a lot of the physiques up there were fantastic as well. So, and totally honored to be judging that show. That feels like a lot of pressure, but I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Same here. We've never judged with the NGA, the organization that is sanctioning the event. So it should be interesting to see their judging criteria and how they score in real time and all that, like how it all gets put together.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's very similar. One thing I did find is that no quarter turns for the bikini girls. It's just front and back, which is going to be different compared to most of the natural organizations that I've worked in before, like competed in and things like that, where the bikini girls do quarter turns. So this is just half turns.
Kind of nice. We'll be starting what I consider more the earlier part of the bodybuilding season. Right around April, we'll be out there judging. And then in October, we'll be bringing our Vegan Strong plant-built team to Mr. America, and they'll be competing. So it's kind of a nice transition from the beginning of the season to what is right around the end of this season for 2023.
Plant Built's team is a bit different. So first of all, it's not just bodybuilding. There's bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, kettlebell, Olympic lifting should be coming back this year. And even though our entire team is vegan, we go in and compete in much larger events against people who are not vegan. So, you know, I like all of the arms of vegan activism. I'm here for all of them. So what are we talking about today, 𝐃𝐨𝐽?
This is a topic near and dear to my heart, and I feel like it's a topic near and dear to most professionals' hearts, even outside of the fitness industry. But for us specifically, it's obviously about what we do, and it's how to manage imposter syndrome in the fitness industry. Or basically, well, yeah, let's open up the conversation. What is imposter syndrome, Danny?
Imposter syndrome is when you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you don't belong there. You feel like you don't have the credentials to be doing what you're doing. And more than that, you feel like you tricked everybody into believing that you are capable of doing what you're doing in that setting. And that at any moment, people are going to find out that you're a fraud. It is a very scary feeling. But that is what imposter syndrome is. It's not just feeling like the oddball in the room. It's like feeling like you tricked people into thinking that you belong there. And that when they find you out, like all hell is going to break loose and you're going to be exposed for the fraud that you are.
Well, yeah. And how are you going to get the experience in your field if you don't take your licks and learn as you go, right? You have some people who approach something where they need all the credentials and all the smarts and all the research before they even get started, to the point where they're not even doing the thing. Then you have others that don't do anything like that and just go in, what? Head first, feet first? What's the expression here, Danny?
Sure, either.
Either or, exactly. And everything in between. And I think where you fall on that spectrum really depends on your personality, timing, luck, opportunity, all kinds of stuff, right? Regardless, you wind up doing something that you love and you become a professional. And as you're doing it...
You don't have to be a professional.
That's true. That is true.
And this could be at anything. This could be you invited people over for dinner and they're going to find out that you're a terrible cook. Like they're expecting a delicious meal and they're going to find out you're a terrible cook. And if they like the meal, then whew, thank God. Thank God they didn't figure out I'm a terrible cook. Like, I mean, this can happen everywhere in your life, not just at work. Although I think it's often talked about in a professional position. Like I think that's the most common iteration of it, is at your job.
Sure, but you could even be an athlete who's not looking to do something like be an athlete for a living and feel like you don't belong on the playing field, or you don't deserve to be training the way you want to be training because right. So it's like it affects so many different layers of not just the fitness industry, but just being into fitness and health in general.
Yeah. So I think, okay, let's talk a little bit more about imposter syndrome, what it is, who gets it, etc. Because like you said, not everybody has it. Most people will probably experience it at some point or another about something, but some people don't. And those people are strange to me. Okay, so first of all, anybody can have imposter syndrome, but it is important to note that it seems to affect minorities more. So women, people of color, disabled people, poorer people. It affects, which I guess poorer people isn't really a minority anymore, but you get what I'm saying. Disenfranchised people tend to experience it more, and you have to ask yourself sort of why. Why is that the case? I think that's a really important question to ask in the first place. And, you know, the more I think about this, the more I think that there are limitations set on specific types of kids, whether they realize it or not, whether the adults in their life even realize it or not. You know, a little girl who's interested in science or math might be steered more towards, you know, creative writing or even like home economics instead of engineering, right? So, even if we don't say straight up to that little girl, hey, you can't do this, you don't belong here, there's signs everywhere that she kind of doesn't. You know what I mean? Whereas most little boys in certain scenarios are never told they don't belong somewhere, right? They are encouraged to chase their careers in business or athleticism or all of these things. Their whole life, they are told, pull up a seat at the table, kid, because you belong here. And I feel like a lot of other kids are not told that for certain things. If a little girl wants to go play football, I mean, how many parents are going to be like, oh yeah, sign her up? I mean, maybe it's better now than it used to be, but I just feel like when you are the only person that sort of looks like you in a room, it's pretty quickly you realize, like, do I belong here? I very obviously am the one of these things is not like the other situation. And you build up an entire lifetime of that. And then you're an adult who believes they don't belong doing this, that, or the other. And you don't even know why anymore. You just know you feel like you don't belong.
Yeah. And I feel like adulting is one of those types of things where you look at it and you realize that the more you grow into your age, the more that you don't know, the more experiences are unclear that you're delving into, and that there are people in all areas surrounding you and your every move that know a lot more than you probably ever will, with many facets of things that you actually need to know and need to work on in order to be better at whatever it is that you're doing. And that's, can you think of a worse feeling to like make you just want to throw your hands up in the air and be like, I give up?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, and I want to just back up and say, I don't want to make it sound like white men cannot experience imposter syndrome. They absolutely can. They probably will at some point. But I just think also white men are a lot less likely to feel like they have not earned a place somewhere, whether they have or not, which is an entirely separate story. But yes, the older we get, the more we realize, hopefully, the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know. That's actually a good thing, in my opinion, but it doesn't always feel good.
Yeah, and we're all playing this big, crazy game on how we are judged and how we were bred into being treated based on our presence and what we look like. And on the inside, we're all human. We all breathe the same air. We all have the same blood. And we all experience everyone's struggles with the way that people show up in the world just simply by existing. You could say you're a straight white male and be in touch with feminism, but like you're not being judged as a feminist when you know what I mean? So like there's all kinds of examples of how people are affected by their environment because of the way that they're treated and how that affects them to feel like they don't belong, right? Like they're an imposter.
But I think it all comes down, in my opinion, to the stories we've been told. And then as we get older, that transitions into the stories that we are now telling ourselves about every situation, which is why I think it's important to bring up the thing about kids. If a kid has always been told they belong, when they start sort of having their own thoughts, they're just going to think they belong. And I feel like anybody who has experienced imposter syndrome, like you've been in a room that you feel like you don't belong in, and then the longer you're in that room, you realize there are other people in here that don't know shit. They are confidently spewing their nonsense. And you're like, why does that person have all the confidence in the world to talk out their ass about stuff they obviously don't understand? But I'm over here afraid to say a peep because I'm afraid someone's gonna figure it out. And it all comes down to that guy, that person has been led to believe that he belongs in every room, that we deserve to hear what he has to say all the time. Whereas a lot of other folks have been told, like, hey, you're better seen and not heard in this sphere, okay? You're lucky to be here. You should be thankful to even be here right now. And it's a shame because I think that it puts a lot of people in a position where they're afraid to speak and, we are not able to hear hear what they have to say, see what they're capable of doing, etc., etc. And again, this splays out into every possible arena, and we are going to get to how this pertains to what we do, which is getting healthier, getting fitter, and how many people don't think that they deserve that or belong in that room getting themselves healthier. And this concept of imposter syndrome, I believe that it originated in the 1970s. It was a book about imposter syndrome. I can't remember the exact title of the book, but it was written by Dr. Valerie Young, and she identified 5 types of imposters. Should we talk about the 5 types of imposters?
Let's do it.
Okay. The first one is the perfectionist, the one who feels like they need to be 100% all of the time. They have a very all or nothing mentality. Like if they can't do it perfectly, then they are not going to do it at all. There's the superhero who feels like they need to take on every single role and be awesome at all of them. They're addicted to the work. A lot of times they need external goals to motivate them forward. There's the natural genius. So if anybody was ever in a gifted or talented program as a kid, you probably fall into this category. You feel like everything should be easy. Everything should come naturally to you. And if it doesn't, then you're not even going to do it. If you suck at something at first, you're just not even going to bother. There's the soloist that believes they have to do everything alone. And if they start to have any problems, then they just shut down all communication. There's the expert who defines what or how much they're defined by what or how much they know. Like they are just like pack ratting information, but not actually doing anything because they just feel like, oh, well, I could just know more before I do something. And I see every single one of these people in my clientele. Absolutely every single one of them.
Same here.
So let's talk about that.
Well, simply put, before we delve deep into these 5 different types of imposter syndrome-like feelings, my personal opinion is that the expert one, that this current day and age, it breeds that in all of us because we have access to too much information. There's just too much information out there.
I agree.
Yeah. So even if
Let's
you're
make
not
a podcast about it.
And yeah, that could not be part of your personality or how you developed as a person due to external factors leading up until like the past 5 or 10 years or so, because the past 5 or 10 years, it's just gotten out of control. Like there's so much information out there. You have to actually be, what's the word? Intentional. You have to be intentional about avoiding too much information. If that makes any sense, or like how to navigate it in a way where you're actually going to digest and process some of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey listeners, we hope you've been enjoying this episode and we appreciate your love of all things vegan fitness. For those of you who want even more support on your vegan fitness journey, check out our Muscles by Brussels community and become a member. By joining the team, you are one of our exclusive VIPs. As a member, you'll find over 200 macro-friendly, high-protein recipes that can meet any of your meal planning needs. You'll also receive training programs that update monthly. This training has progressive overload built into it, so you can be sure if you're following the program, you are making progress. All of this and more is located inside our VeganProteins members-only app. As a Muscles by Brussels member, you'll unlock bonus courses, challenges, and more every month. You'll also be invited to our live Zoom video calls, which happen 2 times a month, and are absolute gold to those who show up. And if you can't make the calls, don't worry, you have the opportunity to email us whenever you want. You'll receive a video response to all of your questions from one of the coaches here at VeganProteins every time you message us. Members also receive 40% off many of our other services. And of course, our private community of like-minded individuals is like no other. Best of all, you can try this membership out for a full month at no cost to you with this special offer for our listeners only, because we appreciate and want to fully support you. Use the link in our show notes to sign up for your free trial today. We hope to see you on our next live coaching call.
So when it comes to getting in better shape, improving your health and fitness, I find that a lot of people, first of all, I refer to my clients, generally speaking, as my athletes. And a lot of my clients, they will almost like be like, "Oh, I'm not an athlete." They like take a they need to let me know. They need to let me know, "Oh, don't think of me as an athlete because I'm not an athlete." And it's like, "Well, are you showing up and doing your training every day? Are you trying to get stronger, fitter, more flexible, more agile, all of these things?" Well, then you're an athlete. That's what we're working on. You might also be a mother, a wife, an employee, but right now you're an athlete, okay? So we're going to talk about that. A lot of people, this has happened to me more times than I even know what to do with. A lot of people feel like they are not fit enough to be my client. Have you experienced that?
Well, obvious, yes. And the easy example is the person who comes to us and says, "I'm not looking to do competitive bodybuilding," or "I'm not going to be like a super high achieving bodybuilder." Like, and okay, so I wonder two things. One, is that because of how we've come across, because of our personal interests and who we speak to quite frequently over the past 10 plus years? Or is it because of someone's personal insecurities?
I think both. I mean, these people obviously do want to improve their physiques, their strength, their muscle, their health, etc., but they think they're not fit enough, or their goals aren't big enough to work with us or work with me or work with you or work with Athena. And that to me is like, oh, this person, whether they realize it or not, they are struggling with some self-confidence issues, and what they like, struggling to meet their own needs. They feel like they don't deserve it. And that, to me, that is imposter syndrome, right? You have an opportunity in front of you, but you feel like you don't deserve it, so you don't take it. And that is so sad, honestly. And, I've had people come to our Muscles by Brussels like Zoom calls, our live coaching calls, and feel like when it was their turn to speak, like, nobody wants to listen to what I have to say. And it's like, actually, that's what they're here for. Like, we are here to listen to what you have to say. Everybody in the room is at a different level. Everybody in the room has a different goal. Your thoughts are relevant. Your experiences are important. Your insights are valuable to me and to everybody else in the room. Otherwise, we wouldn't do these calls, But to convince somebody that they do deserve a seat at that table is really, really hard. And obviously we do our best to welcome people and make them feel like they do in fact have a seat at that table. This is a very specific community. If you're experiencing imposter syndrome in a boardroom, for example, I'm sorry, but they are not going to make a seat for you. Nobody else is going to give up their seat for you. So you need to start telling yourself, and we'll get to it, but you need to start believing that you deserve a seat at that table. That's how you squash imposter syndrome. So I'll get into more of how we could do that later. So let's talk about the different types of imposter syndrome folks. Well, I'll break it. I'll go through them again and you can tell me your thoughts on them. So the perfectionist that needs to be 100% perfect, and they have the all or nothing mentality.
Well, I think there is the easy, "Oh yeah, that's me." And then there's the, "Well, how is this actually affecting me in ways that I don't understand?" And that's the button that I like to push, because by the time you've realized it, when you're a true person who is afflicted with perfectionism as a character weakness, the weak part of it, the part that hurts you, it's too late. And you turn around and you're like, crap. My procrastination was a direct result of my perfectionism, and I felt good all the while not doing the thing, thinking I was doing things, and then I turn around and it's like, oh, I just avoided. I avoided what I wanted to do altogether because I didn't think I could do it perfectly. What are you thinking?
I think that sounds like a different type of imposter, but somebody with an all or nothing mentality. This, to me, it's the type of person that if they can't work out for an hour, they don't work out at all. If they can't hit their macros perfectly, well, then they're just going to blow them completely out of the water. And they don't think that they are worthy unless they're doing it perfectly. But, we've said it 100 times, don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Like, you don't have to be perfect. You have to be good enough. You have to take small steps forward. The superhero that feels like they need to do everything all at once and needs external motivation. So these are the people that need to have something to train for. They need a competition. They need a wedding or a vacation to train for. And if they don't have something external to train for, then they just fall off completely. I think that it's really, they don't feel like an athlete if they're not training for something, even though you can be an athlete and not actually compete in anything. You can bodybuild, for example, without ever stepping on stage. Most people do.
Hey, pause. That thought right there is helpful even for those who are hell-bent, adamant, and 110% committed to doing something competitively, because you take that and you keep that type of way about you when you're not competing, and you're able to keep your act together. You're able to not work yourself up to the point where you're going to see yourself out of the game, where you're going to have consequences that are a direct result of you hyper-focusing on needing to compete, needing that goal, right? You become short-sighted and you wind up sabotaging other areas of your life to do the thing. So it's not like suggesting to not see your goal through or to not have an external goal. It's a matter of approach.
Yeah. But I also think it's important, if you recognize that you only work with external motivation, that is going to fail you at some point. So I think it's definitely in your best interest to find some internal motivation, some intrinsic motivation, reasons inside of yourself why you want to keep going. They might not always be as strong as, I'm about to be in my skivvies on a stage in front of a bunch of people. That's a pretty strong motivator to stay on track. But, intrinsic motivation of, I want to reach the end of this feeling like I left no stone unturned. That is intrinsic motivation. Or I want to stay fit and healthy through the off season or through the winter when I usually fall off, or whatever it is. Why? And find those reasons and try to cultivate them, because external motivators will fail you at some point.
Every single time.
The natural genius, the one who just expects that everything should be easy, the gifted and talented kid who the first time they encountered something that was hard, they said, ugh, nope, I suck at that, not doing that. 𝐬𝐿𝐾𝐿's squinting at me because he knows that's me.
And me,
yeah,
unfortunately.
And, when you do something and you're just immediately not good at it and you're like, oh, guess it's not for me. No, it's okay to suck at something. Sucking at something is the first step to being okay at something. So embrace the suck. Sometimes at this point, because I recognize this in myself, that I did this for a long time. If I wasn't immediately good at something, I labeled myself as not good at that thing and just moved right along. Now I sometimes deliberately pursue things that I suck at. Guys, you remember when I ran last year? Remember when I ran that race last year?
Sure do.
Hey, I might do it again. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about maybe doing it again. My annual 5K. How
you don't
badass.
mind if I run with you and tease you a little bit while we're going side by side, do you?
Well, I think I might beat you this year.
We'll see.
But I didn't do that so that I could necessarily get better at running. I did it on purpose because I know that, naturally, that is not my thing. And I wanted to keep doing something that I kind of sucked at because I think it's important. I don't know. Did I feel like an imposter as a goddamn fitness professional showing up to my first ever 5K knowing that I was not going to do particularly well at it? Oh yeah. I felt that quite a bit. And then I did the goddamn thing anyway. So that's the important thing, is doing the thing anyway. The soloist, the one who believes they have to do everything alone, and as soon as they face a struggle, communication is cut off. This might actually be the hardest type of client that I deal with on earth. The ones who it's like they check in when they are crushing it. When everything is going well, they're going to show up right on their day, right on time, tell me everything that's going well. If something goes badly, ghost. They just ghost. They just disappear. And you're like, hey, how's it going? Crickets.
Well, showing up when you're not doing anything doesn't feel good for anybody. Talking about it, you can fear that it's actually going to make your behavior worse. I know that feeling, even as of recent. It's really scary. It's not necessarily true. It's as true as you feel it is to be. The worst thing you could do is not show up for yourself. At the end of the day, people are showing up for you. You're not, there's accountability when you're showing up with a coach, but make no mistake about it. At the end of the day, it is you showing up for yourself. And who pays the price? You, if you don't show up.
But that's the whole point of a coach. Yes, the coach is absolutely there to give you an attaboy when you did a really good job. But they are also there, much more so in my opinion, to help you when things are hard. That is the point, to coach you through challenging stuff. So when you just disappear because you're not being perfect all of the sudden, you do yourself a tremendous disservice and you don't even give your coach a chance to show you what they can do for you.
It's true. And this affects, I guess what I want to say here, and I think is really important, it's like just like personality traits, these different types of imposter syndrome avatars, if you will, we have each one of them in us to some degree, right? You might lean more heavily on 2 out of the 3 or whatever.
You might see yourself in a little bit in every single one of these. I know I do.
Yeah, exactly. And just like everything else, you can hone in on whatever portion of one of these imposter syndrome types that affect you and how it affects you, right? And you can just work on yourself that way, as opposed to being like, this is me, I'm this, I'm that. Like, there's all kinds of ways that you can break this down and improve.
The last one is the expert, which is the one who hoards all the information but doesn't actually do anything. I mean, I feel like we've beat this topic to death in so many other podcasts about the analysis paralysis, just collecting information and not doing anything. Guys, it's always going to be better to take your first step imperfectly than to do nothing at all. Won't go too far into that one. But, these are, in our field, these are people who research 100 different coaches and never pull the trigger on any one of them, or they are constantly collecting fitness information, nutrition information. They send us the same questions over and over and over, or they always have they're just constantly asking different questions. But when we say, hey, how's your programming going? How's your nutrition going? How's this going? They're like, oh, well, I haven't actually started yet. And it's like, oh boy, buddy, we've been in contact on and off for over a year. It's time to start. It's time to start. Don't let that become the distraction from actually doing something.
And it's crazy. That conversation can last over the course of months when you work with somebody. Then you turn around and as a coach, you can feel some guilt in the sense that, have you really helped this person? Have they gotten what they need out of the experience? But the truth is, you have to build a foundation yourself, psychology-wise, to be able to get where you need to be going. For example, even while you're still doing what seems like the work that is the main reason why you showed up. Oh yeah, I'm following my macros, I'm prepping my food, I'm doing my training. It's and what are you doing for yourself mindset wise? And what are you doing for yourself? How is your mental health? You got to figure out that stuff too, to really get where you need to be so that you get the right kind of feedback for your coach and for yourself.
Okay. So here's my wrap up piece talking about how do you actually crush imposter syndrome? Well, first I would say it takes a really long time, but here's something that you can do that will really help a lot. So first step is writing down your why. We've talked about finding your why a bajillion times, but it's just as important now as it ever was before. And it's important when it pertains to imposter syndrome. Write down why this particular thing matters to you, whether it's a job or your fitness or whatever, wherever it is you feel like you're not belonging. Why does it matter? Write that down. Next, write down a list of your limiting beliefs around this thing. right? So let's say it's your fitness. It could be like, well, I've been overweight my whole life. I guess I'm just supposed to be that way. Or I've never been athletic. Or I have bad knees, so I can't actually work out. Or I don't have time to work out. These are all limiting beliefs. Write them all down. Okay? Now you're going to write down or dictate or something a new story. Counter these limiting beliefs. Talk about, the higher part of your brain, the more logical part of your brain that can see that these limiting beliefs are largely bullshit that you're just telling yourself all the time. You're going to write down a story that counters these beliefs, and then you're going to record it on your phone. You can just go to your audio notes or whatever. Nobody needs to know about it. You don't have to publish this anywhere. In fact, I would advise against it. But record this story. You telling the story of how you are improving your health every single day by making small changes and showing up for yourself consistently and prioritizing the time to do it. Record it in your own voice. Play it back for yourself at regular intervals. Listen to yourself. Tell yourself your new story, because here's the thing. The same way something deep inside of you believes these limiting beliefs, you do believe it, right? Something deep inside of you feels like you don't belong in that room. We need to detrain that shit out of you. And the best way to do that is to be listening to this story, your new story, regularly, over and over and over and over again until you believe it yourself. You need to start believing the new story. That is the only way that you are going to stop feeling like you don't belong, is when you start believing your new story.
Moving on to our question and answer segment for today.
All right, 𝐬𝐿𝐾, this one's for you. Is coconut oil a healthy vegan food?
Define healthy or unhealthy.
Exactly. But
yeah. Well, I'll tell you why I like coconut oil. I like it because it has a high smoke point, meaning that molecularly it won't get destroyed as easily as, say, olive oil, for example. And it's a common oil. It's one you easily have access to that has a high smoke point, and it's kind of tasty. So there are lots of reasons why it's actually good to cook with coconut oil.
if
right?
you're going to cook with oil.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Right? Because it's safer that way. You don't want to molecularly change the composition of an oil. It's going to just be harder on your system. Right? So I'd argue that coconut oil is actually something that's healthy to...
In that context.
Well, yeah.
It's also very high in saturated fat, which a lot of people should be avoiding. Lots of saturated fats. I mean, I think the answer is that there is no food, short of like trans fats, that is inherently healthy or unhealthy. I don't think coconut oil should be liberally added to one's diet.
No, not at all. I mean, oil in general.
Exactly.
Because it's just not satiating, and there are so many healthier ways to get in healthy fats.
Yeah.
That are enjoyable.
To me, coconut oil is not a vegan health food. I mean, what would be a vegan health food? Broccoli, kale, like fruits and veggies, I guess. Beans, I guess, if I had to call something a health food. But I don't really like to think of a food as healthy or unhealthy. It's like, how much or how little do I want of this in my diet? And if coconut oil is like in a treat or something, that's fine. I'll eat it. I think it adds texture to certain things, but I do not go out of my way to cook with coconut oil.
No, same. I'll put some coconut flakes in my oats, for example, or I'll have some coconut water because it's really hydrating.
I'll slather that stuff all over my skin.
But to like bathe in coconut oil? Nah. This question's for you, Danny. Do you ever use knee sleeves? Tips for cranky knees?
I use knee sleeves a lot, actually. I love knee sleeves. I do not leg press, hack squat, or barbell back squat without knee sleeves, particularly like heavy squat pattern movement exercises. I pretty much always wear the knee sleeves. It basically keeps the joint warm and it makes it like a teeny tiny bit more stable. So I love knee sleeves. I think if anybody has cranky knees, you should wear knee sleeves for certain exercises. But my main tips for cranky knees is going to be one of my tips for pretty much every cranky body part is if you're doing an exercise and it hurts, don't do that exercise. Find an alternative exercise. And my next bit, I guess, is a little bit controversial. Not everybody agrees with this point, but I love leg extensions for cranky knees. Lightweight, high rep leg extensions for cranky knees, because a lot of times it has to do with weaker quads. It can also have to do with weaker glutes. So all kind of glute training is good for cranky knees. Don't do anything that has a ton of knee flexion. Like normally, I don't care if someone's knees pass their toes on squats. My knees pass my toes every time on squats. But if someone has bad knees, maybe just avoid those riskier movements. So
Cue your knees up with different kinds of exercises like monster walks or banded hip thrusts, or even do a warm-up set or two with a barbell only on your back and throw a band on your knees. Trigger your knees. Cue them to work. Or throw some mobility into the mix, right? Stretch out your quads and your hamstrings a little bit. Not that that's going to make your knee directly any more mobile, but you'll definitely track better on a movement where your knee can be affected negatively if your muscles are too tight.
yeah, I was going to add, make sure you're really warm before you start training. Because I think as we get older, when I was 20, I used to be able to jump right into a set of squats with very little warm up at all, with no issues whatsoever. Now, that is not the case. I have to make sure that I'm warm. I've done a little cardio. I got the blood flowing a little bit, and then I warm up to my weights. And I do that on all heavy exercises, not just squats, but heavy rows, heavy overhead press, heavy bench press. I start with the bar and I work my way up with a few, I add 10 or 20 pounds and I just do a couple reps and then add 10 or 20 pounds and then do a couple reps until I get up to my working sets, so that my body is like not in total shock when we throw it under a large amount of weight. And, find a good physical therapist. If they're really bad, not all physical therapists are good. Keep bopping around till you find one that is good and understands your goals. Definitely, I would recommend that as well. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. If you want to talk more about imposter syndrome, come over to our Muscles by Brussels Facebook group. It's totally free. We have a lot of fun there. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Vegan Proteins, at Muscles by Brussels, and at I Am Just Athena. And if you're interested in coaching at all, please go to VeganProteins.com. We have all different kinds of coaching for all different kinds of goals and budget levels. You can just reach out to us right there. As always, thanks for tuning in. My name is Danny.
And I'm Giacomo.
And we will talk to you soon.
Stand in the